Welcome to another JellyPod episode. Today I'm here with Raul, and he is the founder of Fluid Protocol. Now, Fluid Protocol started off as just borrowing and lending over on Cardano, but now they are also operating on Bitcoin, doing a lot of cool stuff there with runes and staking and borrowing and lending, a bunch of crazy stuff. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about their journey, Raul's journey, the journey of Fluid Protocol, and some of the exciting things that they have coming up with Aquarium, as well as some different Bitcoin interoperability, Cardano esque stuff. But starting off here, Raul, I always like to ask people, what their Web3 journey is. How did you sort of find the crypto space and start building Fluid?
Hi, Jason. Yes, thanks for the opportunity. So my Web3 journey actually is kind of curious because I come from a completely different field. I was an electronic engineer when I approached Web3. I am an electronic engineer actually, and I was checking out IoT blockchain. So at that time, I was studying IOTA because I had some devices and wanted to publish them, the data that they collected into the blockchain. However, IOTA was not having smart contracts yet, and I met Matteo, my co-founder, and he was very Cardano bullish, and he was actually writing his master's thesis over Plutus. So Plutus was not out yet, smart contracts were not there, and he was already doing the master thesis at university regarding that. And so he said, hey, you don't worry about smart contracts over there. Start looking at Cardano because smart contracts are coming very, very soon. And yeah, it started like that. I had no experience before regarding blockchain and so on. I started to run my Cardano node. And with that, with command line from zero, I learned everything on Discord, on Twitter, wherever I could find material, I use it to understand better.
Wow, so your journey must have started, if it was before smart contracts, it was over 3.5 years ago then, right? Like when you
Yeah.
first started picking it up?
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, and, like, at the time, there wasn't, like, Icon and some of these, like, other easier, coding languages, so what was the process like of actually learning how to, like, code in Haskell and Plutus, and did you have a development background beforehand, or was this the first time you were actually learning how to code?
So it's interesting because no, I actually have a background into coding because in order to be an hardware engineer, so an electronic one, you need some low-level programming. So in order to program your devices, you have to write the code, and it's very low level, and it helps to understand some procedures that we use in smart contracts. However, Haskell was completely another world. And I tried to learn it, and I just couldn't get it. Really, it was impossible for me. It was so hard to find material and so on. However, as I said before, Matteo actually he studied in university how to write Bluetooth smart contracts. So the setup
Oh,
was like
wow, in
this.
university.
Yes,
That's
yes,
clutch.
yes. And his professor was actually into blockchains, and once he found out about Bluetooth, he said to Matteo, why don't you write your master thesis about this, because it's still on a work in progress, so it could be some technology that probably will become useful one day. And today we know that actually it is, because that opened the gates to a lot of DeFi that is happening on Cardano right now. And so the setup was like this. Matteo was writing the smart contracts, and I was the one testing them and interacting with them using command line. So I used command line to test and interact with smart contracts from scratch. So it was very, very low level, but it was something that I could understand. It took a lot of hours, days, in order to test just few features of smart contracts. And however, it worked. So it took us some probably 2 months to finish our first version of Fluid, and to compare it as today. today we are able to test the same smart contracts that we had at that time in less than 1 week. In 1 week, we are able to write the smart contract, test, and have even the front end ready. So the icon, the off-chain like Lucid Evolution, Mesh.js have scaled up completely the approach of developing on Cardano. And this is great for any new dev that would like to join.
Tapping into that a little bit more because I've noticed after talking to different Cardano developers, I don't know if you know Oddest Human Dad from Wild Tanks, but I had him on last week, and he actually studied with one of the founders of Haskell, and he was telling me very similar to you that in the beginning of developing our Cardano, there just wasn't a lot of resources, libraries, different infrastructure, stuff like
Exactly.
that. Like, how much has that advanced? I know, you said that you can pretty much do the original code of Fluid in a week now. How long did it originally take to build?
So the thing is this. Right now, when all the languages of smart contracts that you have, Icon is just one of them. But for me, for instance, I was able to learn using Helios. Helios was great for me because it's very, very similar to C as a language. That is the one that hardware engineers are using. So if you are an hardware engineer and you read Helios, you actually understand everything. And the cool stuff about this is that right now, using Icon or whatever language, you are able to test everything on your device. With Bluetooth, it was not like that. You needed a device, a VPS, a server that was running some things in order to compile Bluetooth and Haskell things. So one thing is being able to test on your device or even on the browser. That's something that you have with Icon or Helios. But with Bluetooth, you needed a new device that was running. So it was really a
Oh,
nightmare
really?
for that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And getting into Fluid here. Like what's the rundown for Fluid for those that don't know, kind of the 2 minute, sort of breakdown.
So Fluid actually is a DeFi platform on UTXO blockchains, as you said, Cardano and Bitcoin, and wants to leverage the lending opportunities that are on these chains. Right now, when we launched, we were more focused on NFT backed lending because there was a lot of liquidity locked in NFTs. And right now, we are actually going to launch the tokens lending with perpetual loans. So there is no time expiration. You have Oracle integrations, and that's something very, very cool.
Okay, sweet, sweet. Yeah, and it's funny. I remember seeing you guys in the very early days of Cardano NFTs as well, and I even did some lends and borrows and stuff. And I believe you guys even had renting and different things like that as well, right?
Yes, exactly. This was in the boom of NFT utility. Like everyone wanted to use a Tappy for tap tools, and you could either buy it or rent it on Fluid. And the amazing stuff was that we were just using the architecture of Cardano to achieve renting without actually breaking anything, and it was compatible with tap tools, for instance, from day one immediately, and it was something innovative in that sense.
Yeah, that's dope. And one of the things with me, so I see we're kind of on similar paths in this sense, but Cardano, even though I'm not a chain maxi, Cardano is kind of like the home that I've had for a while over the years, and
Mhm.
I've become increasingly interested in like everything that's happening on the layer one of Bitcoin. So when I
Yeah.
saw that you guys started talking about Bitcoin and getting into the ordinals, which only came out a couple years ago, and the runes, borrowing and lending, and all that stuff, it really piqued my interest. What
Mhm.
what like made you guys decide to get into the Bitcoin space and sort of also add the support for those assets?
So when we started to check what was going on Bitcoin, because in the news we heard about ordinals, we heard about a community that was growing over the Bitcoin space. we started to understand what was the ecosystem in that moment. And we found out that there were very, very, very few dApps that were really dApps, like decentralized ones. Most of the things happening on Bitcoin were actually multi-signature. So you were trusting and giving custody over your assets. And with Matteo, we started to experiment a bit on the Bitcoin side and think, how can we do something without having to rely on multi-signature? Is it really possible to build DeFi on top of Bitcoin without having smart contracts? And after some iterations, we were actually able to do it. It was something that was possible just because we learned so much stuff on the Cardano side, and all those things applied to Bitcoin, and they worked in the same way. So without using oracles or multi-signatures and so on, we were really able to start a loan in a very peer-to-peer way between a lender and a borrower without having to ask for permission. And this was very, very groundbreaking. And that was at that moment we said, okay, we have to do it. We must go to the Bitcoin space because we have the knowledge, we have the skills, and we really can cook something over there.
Okay, and I see a lot, and it's been a huge narrative recently where it's like Cardano can be the L2 of Bitcoin, and they both use like the UTXO model, and there's ways of using similar code. Can you break all of that down in a way like an average person can understand? Like how are you able to, like, what all is capable with Cardano and Bitcoin? What sort of like interoperabilities are you seeing possible that you're able to essentially leverage Cardano or the code you already have
Mhm.
in order to then use that on the layer 1 of Bitcoin? I know that's like a
Yeah.
big question to like tackle too, but I think this is just on a lot of people's mind because we're hearing different things like Bitcoin OS and like these different, bridges. And I know you guys have done a decent amount of stuff as well, but yeah, like what's the breakdown of everything?
Yes, I think that there are a lot of questions from the community regarding this because it's really hard to understand. So let's try to make it very, very simple for everyone.
Okay.
So as maybe some don't know, is that it has the same architecture of Bitcoin. So it's UTXO and UTXO. However, Cardano is extended UTXO. You have the abilities to have smart contracts, programmability over UTXOs. On Bitcoin, you don't have that. So, and that's actually an issue because when you want to build stuff on Bitcoin, you cannot. And however, how can you do some stuff on another chain without having to download a new wallet? Because let's be real, when I want to try a new chain and I have to download a wallet that I still don't have, sometimes I won't do it. I don't want to do that again because it's not a thing that I do just in 1 second. I have to write the seed phrase, I have to create a new seed phrase, and so on. So ideally, what I would like is be able to use my Bitcoin wallet to provide Bitcoin over a DeFi on Cardano, for instance. And maybe I don't even want to know that it's Cardano. I just want to use a dApp with my Bitcoin wallet, provide Bitcoin over there, and then claim or farm whatever rewards I'm getting without having to do a new wallet, but always using a safe way. So I don't want to give custody. And this is actually possible with Bitcoin and Cardano, not because both of them are UTXO, but because both of them are deterministic. And this is the key. What does it mean? On Bitcoin, you once you fix the fee, you can predetermine what's the transaction hash that you are going to come. Meaning that ideally, you and I could sign transactions again and again, chaining them, creating a big chain of them without propagating them. So we are still here in the present, what we are doing stuff, signing at fast speed of things that could happen in the future. And this is very interesting because you don't have that on EVM. Like EVM as an account model, so the transaction hash is not that easy to determine upfront, and you cannot build this chain of things. And this means that I am able to create chain of transactions that when they happen on Bitcoin, they trigger stuff on Cardano. And we can predetermine this before submitting this transaction. So in layman terms, what is it unlocking? Well, for instance, I'm able to provide Bitcoin. These Bitcoin are provided in a smart contract on Cardano. We will check maybe later how it happens. And once it's on Cardano side, I am the only one in control of them because Cardano smart contracts can recognize every signature coming from Bitcoin. So I am the only one able to move those Bitcoin around that I can propagate and send to Fluid tokens or mint swap in a pool and withdraw and anything. And then I can go back to Bitcoin. So I have the safety of a layer one, that is Cardano, but the experience of a layer two, because we are able to go faster than Bitcoin on Cardano.
Now, with this sort of setup, like, do you still need to have a bridge? Like, do you still need to bridge, let's say, Bitcoin or BTC runes over into the Cardano chain? Or do you not need to do that?
So the thing is that you need a bridge, yes. How to make this bridge safe, this is the crucial part. Because probably you heard about BitVM, BitVM2, Bitcoin OS also, we have heard about it. And the thing is this, you want to make this bridge the most safe as possible. But there is an issue with this. The safer the bridge, the slower it is. And this is usually a trade-off. So do you choose speed or security? And you don't want to be in a position to have to choose between these two.
Yeah.
So what you can actually do instead is you could bridge Bitcoin at a slow speed, have a liquidity on Cardano using this bridge. At that point, you have Bitcoin on Bitcoin, of course, but also on Cardano. And as soon as a user would like to use Bitcoin on Cardano, they can actually borrow from the ones that have already bridged. So you have liquidity providers of Bitcoin that are already on Cardano, providing at faster speed to the user that will try to test and play with the Cardano DeFi. And at that point, you get the speed of a layer two, but the security of the bridge, because the bridge is inherently safe and even if it's slow, but that slowness is not experienced by the user itself. So to answer your question, do we need a bridge? Yes. And that's why there are so many teams working on different implementation of this bridge. And once that is done, the all the other stuff are actually the easy part. And that's where the user can come, play with Cardano, and forget about having to download a new wallet or even to purchase ADA. They can just use Bitcoin itself to pay for transactions.
So, to get into an example of this, how do you sort of envision the flow? Like, let's say I'm a Bitcoin user. I have, I guess let's say I have the Tokyo wallet that supports Cardano and Bitcoin assets. But let's say I've just got Bitcoin, I've got ordinals, and I've got runes. And for those that are listening and don't know about ordinals and runes, think of like NFTs and sort of meme coins or, tokens over on Bitcoin. What's sort of the flow that you're imagining here? Like, they basically have the wallet, they would then bridge their Bitcoin or whatever assets you add compatibility to over into Cardano. And now once those assets are in Cardano, they're able to essentially use that Bitcoin and be able to interact all within the Cardano DeFi ecosystem. but then you're also able to make it so they can pay their gas fees in Bitcoin instead of ADA. So it kind of feels like a seamless experience. Is that sort of the flow of things? And then at any point in time, they can just bridge their assets back?
Yeah, exactly. However, what I would say is that the experience of the bridge should be even seamless, like very, very smooth. Meaning that, let's say that I open Fluid tokens and I would write to provide Bitcoin as liquidity. Simple. I connect my Bitcoin wallet and I want to sign a transaction on Bitcoin where I'm actually sending Bitcoin. However, what we want, and that's it for the user, that's the ultimate goal. I sign one transaction and that's it. In our case, we are going to sign the first transaction to send Bitcoin and the second transaction to, once this Bitcoin reach Cardano, to provide liquidity. So in two signatures, that's it. And using the liquidity providers that we said before, we are able to, once the first signature is done, Bitcoins, we can use already Bitcoins on Cardano. So ideally, even before one block confirmation on Bitcoin, before 10 minutes. And once they arrive there, with the second signature, you are providing them in the protocol or whatever, wherever you would like to go. And the cool thing is that with bubble fees, and this is a word that everyone has been hearing lately, and we have been pushing a lot in that sense, you don't need ADA. And sometimes people get it in the wrong way, thinking, oh, this means that ADA is not useful anymore. No, not really. Transactions are always paid in ADA, always. However, someone else is paying for your transaction in exchange of your Bitcoin, meaning that for you, you are paying in Bitcoin. You don't even notice that you are using ADA under the hood. But someone else is providing that ADA that is actually useful to run the transaction itself.
Yeah, I mean, this is super interesting because it's one of those situations like Bitcoin right now doesn't have smart contract capabilities. It
Yeah.
would only happen if like OPCat like actually got upgraded, which is a hard challenge to do. So right now, what we've been seeing is you're either on the layer one of Bitcoin with 10-minute block times that can get super congested, that don't have smart contract capabilities, or you've been going to these different layer twos that are pretty new and a little sketchy. So you think like the main advantage of Cardano is the fact that it is a secure, decentralized layer one that has
Yeah.
never gone down. And this is effectively able to become the DeFi layer of Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. Mostly for two reasons. The first one is the one that you say, like, uh, I think that last year we saw more than 400 layer twos of Bitcoin popping up.
It's been
Everyone
crazy.
wanted,
It's been
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It was very hard to stay up to date because every day there was something new. I think that one of the biggest and most hyped was Fractal, I think, yes. That was
Fractal.
a, a layer 2 slash fork that had OPCat enabled. Okay. So everyone was very happy at first because they say, hey, amazing. We finally have a Bitcoin where you have smart contracts. That's going to be huge. However, the problem with the hype is this. Once there is no really utility or no ecosystem over there, people, once they get there, they say, okay, but what now? And that's actually something that Cardano has already addressed, meaning that if you are able to come to Cardano with your Bitcoin, actually there is a lot of stuff that you can do. That you can provide liquidity not just in one protocol. There are so much stuff that you can do. You could even provide liquidity in a DEX and get fees from the swap, from the farming of the rewards of that. So at that point, you don't have anymore to wonder, okay, but what happens um, if when the people arrive here, there is not any much to do or there is not so much activity and so on. Well, actually, we already have on Cardano so many opportunities for them. At this point, it's just a matter of getting this communication channel. And on the security level, you usually layer twos have a multi-signature approach. So you are trusting a multi-signature. There are actually safer ones and more useful as approaches. But when it comes to Cardano, in order to have to hack Cardano, you should purchase more than 50% of the staking value around the chain. So it's really impossible to hack a Cardano compared to a layer two.
And I was gonna say, is there any advantages to Cardano versus, let's say, Solana or Ethereum or some sort of other chain trying to be a layer two of Bitcoin? Like, is it possible for Ethereum to just be a layer two of Bitcoin? What about, is there any like advantages Cardano has, like with the UTXO model or like how that's shared? I guess what I'm
Yeah,
saying is like, can any chain sort of do this exact same thing?
yeah. The answer is actually yes. Every chain can do it, but the detail is in the optimization part, meaning that, for instance, I could say, okay, let's forget about Cardano for a moment and let's do this on Ethereum. Let's use my Bitcoin wallet to do stuff on Ethereum and so on. And that can actually work. However, the issue is this. Solidity is not optimized in order to interact with Bitcoin signatures. And if you want to interact with Ethereum using your Bitcoin wallet, you are going to pay a lot of fees because Solidity, in order to decompress the Bitcoin signature, is going to require a lot of gas. On the other hand, Cardano has been optimized a lot in that sense, meaning that for you, just check that a user from Bitcoin interacted with your Bluetooth smart contracts. It's just, I don't know, probably 1 cent of ADA fee in the transaction that you had is a very, very small interaction with the contract. And therefore, the possibilities are a lot. You can do a lot of stuff in one transaction.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm curious, what are you guys at Fluid doing with this? Like, I know that you guys have your Fluid protocol on Bitcoin. You're already doing some borrowing and lending, like on the layer one. Are like, what is your guys' plan? Are you also, you already have borrowing and lending on Cardano too? So are you sort of just waiting for a bridge to come out and then hope that people will use Fluid, or like what all are you guys, sort of building?
Yes, yes. So we are doing two things. Well, first of all, we are actively helping and in communication with the teams working at the bridge level and the bubble fees level. And in this way, we are not just working on the same thing with different teams, but we are working in the same goal together. And we are very close to IOG teams regarding this. But second, our protocol, our Fluid tokens new lending that is coming in the next days is actually going to be compatible with any chain already, meaning that it doesn't matter if you are using Bitcoin or Ethereum. Let's involve also Ethereum or EVM. You can use those wallets to interact and provide liquidity directly on Fluid tokens. So yes, we need the bridge, but as soon as this bridge is out, Fluid tokens is compatible with all these possible chains.
Mm.
And we are using, uh, why this? Because at a certain point we said, okay, we want to build a very cool lending protocol, but we don't want to build it just for Cardano users because at that point, when you want to onboard someone, it needs to be on Cardano. However, if we are able to make it compatible with different chains, it doesn't matter where does this user come from. He can use directly Fluid, and even if he's not a Cardano Maxi or into Cardano, if the protocol is cool and works, he's going to come again, and that's actually going to benefit Cardano because he's going to get transaction, not just from the users that are on Cardano itself, but also from abroad.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So right now, you guys are just kind of preparing all the infrastructure and capabilities and stuff, so that as soon as these larger bridges open, whatever the case is, it's pretty much plug and play at that point for anyone to get involved.
Yeah.
And what do you think is like, I'm curious, what do you think is going to be the hardest part of that aspect of actually onboarding? Let's say specific to Bitcoin. What do you think is the hardest part to actually get Bitcoin users into doing this on Cardano? One, and also, is this also including ordinals and runes and all of that stuff, or is it only going to be Bitcoin, or is it only going to be dependent on whatever the bridge accepts?
Okay, so the cool thing is that once it works for Bitcoin, is compatible with ordinals and runes at the same level. So no issue in that sense.
There's
I have
no
to check
issues.
regarding I have to check actually regarding BRC20. I'm not sure. However, that's already helpful and very good for the ecosystem, both on Bitcoin and on Cardano also. But in my opinion, what is the hardest part is this: you have to provide good opportunities for farming or yield for Bitcoin users. I always talk about stacks because what they did was very smart. They provided some rewards from their network to people that actually bridge Bitcoin from Bitcoin layer one to stacks. And they actually provided it in a cool way, in a way that all of us are very comfortable with. This liquid staking. So if you bridged your Bitcoin over stacks, you get liquid staking rewards proportional to what amount you have. And with this, they were able to get more than 3,000 Bitcoin of liquidity in less than 1 week. So
Oh,
that
wow.
was insane, meaning that actually Bitcoin users are very are checking out these opportunities. If this opportunity is good enough, they are coming. And no matter what chain it is, this is the important thing. What they want is security, and Stacks is actually a good layer two in terms of security, and they want good opportunities for their Bitcoin. They have been so used to stay for years without having to possibility to farm or to get rewards and to make actually their Bitcoin work. That as soon as there is a good opportunity, they are going to check it out, and if it's worth, they will come.
I agree on that. I think from talking to a lot of Bitcoin, I guess maxis, the big thing is security, right? With this sort of model, how can people be ensured that the actual bridge is secure? Because on Bitcoin, like there's no smart contract to like lock up the tokens, right? So how can they actually trust the bridge?
So this is actually the main topic. You probably heard about zero knowledge. You probably heard about rotation schemes for multi-signatures and so on. And this is where everyone is checking and studying, because even though Bitcoin has no smart contracts, there is a thing called taproots on Bitcoin. Taproot is a way that you can actually add programmability to Bitcoin in a very low level, but you are able to, let's say, to determine possible scenarios of an address of a Bitcoin UTXO. And this is what you can actually do, because if you know that, let's say I deposit Bitcoin on this bridge, and you know already what are all the possible scenarios of this UTXO that I deposited, and you also can verify on your own that this UTXO can be just spent based on some conditions. That's it. You have programmability of your deposit on the Bitcoin network, and you know upfront
Mm.
what are the terms of withdrawing that Bitcoin. And it requires actually a lot of computation, but it is possible. And this is the thing that everyone is trying to leverage in order to achieve it.
Yeah, no, I have so with this sort of ZK in process, will it ever be at the point where you don't need like people like multi-sig, where you have like people signing, or will you always need that?
So when you have ZK on the Cardano side, you don't need any more multi-signatures, meaning that you are using just the proof from zero knowledge, and that's enough. You can interact with your contract to get Bitcoin on the other side directly using that proof, and that's it. On the Bitcoin side, instead, where we want to get is we don't want to have the security of one multi-sig, because multi-sig is you need a threshold of users to agree on something. You want to reach the uh, 1 over n security, meaning that let's say that there are 100, 1000 signers of the bridge on the Bitcoin side. If at least one of them is honest, the bridge is safe. So growing the number of operators, of signals, and so on of this bridge, it means that these possibilities highly to happen, that they secure the at
Yeah.
least one actor is honest. And this is the optimistic approach that everyone is trying to get. And I've been even speaking with the Bitcoin Cash devs, and they are pushing a lot, for instance, to make OPCAT happen. So if that would happen, that would unlock immediately all the possible
It's
things that
insane, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
still,
was talking to
yeah,
this one dev, Ferks, about OP Cat like last week. Really interesting conversation about it. I didn't realize how game changing it would be if this actually got approved. I am curious from your side. Do you think this is just a pipe dream, or do you think that there's actually a chance that this could this could happen? Like the upgrade could happen?
so
Because
if you
doesn't
ask it,
something like over 50% have to vote
yeah,
yes? So like you're trying to convince 50% of miners to go with this. Like, is this even
exactly.
possible in your opinion?
So if you asked me these, let's say 6 months ago, I would say no, I don't see it happen. But now I see something. Even the Bitcoin maxis, those that say no, Bitcoin is the only chain and so on, they are starting to interact more with the ordinals, with the layer 2's ecosystem, because they are actually providing fees to the miners. So
Yeah.
I think that we are very close to uh, to push on this sense. Miners, would you like to get more fees? Because Bitcoin transaction in the last days have been very low. If you would like to get more fees, make this happen. OPCAT will actually increase a lot of transaction on the Bitcoin network, and more transaction means more rewards for miners. So I think that we are very in a very good position for that. So I don't see that happening probably this year, but maybe at early of next year I would see OPCAT already enabled.
Yeah, I even saw a post today saying that a lot of Bitcoin transactions are happening on paper now, right? Like not on chain. It's centralized exchanges and ETFs. And, obviously over time, I think over what, 99% of Bitcoin is going to be mined in the next like I don't know, like 6, 7 years. Like we there are when it's something crazy. Like the last Bitcoin doesn't get mined until 2140, but I think it at 2031, over 99% of the Bitcoin is going to be in circulation or something crazy like that. And it's one of those situations where there's even a security issue for Bitcoin where there has to be enough
Yeah.
miner profitability or people are going to stop running their miners and nodes and like things become less decentralized. And right now, it's sort of been supplemented through these Bitcoin rewards, but it needs to get to the point where the actual on chain transactions and fees are high enough to be able to sustain and
Yeah.
have a high enough yield for them to have these operations. So I feel like it's almost something that will inevitably need to happen. I think the miners that are buying 20, $30,000 machines are going to be like, "Oh crap, like maybe we have to push this."
No, exactly, exactly. And the cool thing is about this is that considering all the work that is in the background regarding this bridge and so on, not just from our side, but in general from all the layer twos, all the chains that would like to get this Bitcoin file. Well, as soon as there is OPCAT, most of these teams get the boost to their studies and to their research, and they are able to provide it immediately. So it's not something that you say, okay, let's enable OPCAT. Maybe one day we will have a bridge. The day you enable OPCAT, I would say that in less than 1 week, you will have probably more than 10 bridges already live.
Because it solves it, it makes it easy.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that you guys are sort of creating once again, like you said, once the bridge goes live, I mean, you guys are making everything super compatible. It might take another lending and borrowing protocol in Cardano, for example, months to now all of a
Yeah.
sudden add in all of these capabilities. I also want to say we've had about 300 people tune in live at some throughout this, which appreciate everyone that joined in. If anyone here has any questions they would love to ask, feel free to put this in the chat. What's up, Brutal? Glad to see you here. Brandoff, so Mateo converted you to Cardano. He said this at the beginning. Pretty
Yeah.
much, I think from IOTA to Cardano, I think that was a pretty good trade, honestly.
Yeah. He saved me.
Gunny, yeah, yeah, facts. Gunny, what's up? Bomo, Fluid is cooking. Also say Bitcoin, Cardano. That's another thing that's really interesting that I've noticed as well is on Cardano, there are a decent amount of maxis that are like full on Cardano, but almost all of the Cardano community likes Bitcoin as well. And you don't really see that. Like, so it's very compatible in a business sense for you guys to add in Bitcoin because I've noticed like projects, let's say they try going to Base or they try going to Solana or they try adding in, it usually has negative implications. But I feel like with Bitcoin, people are like, yeah, it makes sense.
No, exactly, exactly. It's not just about the architecture because it's both UTXO, but it's even regarding the ethos, the vision behind Cardano. If you think about it, Cardano was born and is live to be a blockchain that is decentralized, not just as a circulation, not just as governance, but in the same way Bitcoin is born to be decentralized. Sometimes we forget that blockchain is not regarding centralization. Blockchain is not about having something very, very fast, even if it's centralized. Bitcoin was born in order to allow things to happen without asking permission. And this is what Cardano has been focused also. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to wait or hope that your transaction will be processed by someone. It's in the same vision. So I even when I go to conference, Bitcoin conference, I perceive the same vibes from the Bitcoin community that I get from the Cardano community. So they are. It's just like visiting another country, but at the end of the day, it's in the same mood.
Yeah, it makes sense. And to kind of change topics now, I've seen you guys posting about this aquarium thing a lot. Uh, like, can you just give the rundown on this? Like, I don't know too much about it. So, what's kind of what is aquarium? What have you guys built?
So Aquarium wants to fix two issues on Cardano. The first one is that, and this has been a issue also for me because sometimes I have to schedule some transactions and a monthly transactions, and there is nothing that allows me to do it. Let's say that I would like to send to you 10 ADA, 100 ADA, or 100 USDA every month. Every month I have to take my ledger and do
Yes.
it, and and that's okay. I can make it. However, it would be lovely if I was able to do it directly in one day, schedule all the transactions that I have for 1 year, let's say, or even more. And that's actually what Aquarium is doing with scheduled transactions, meaning that you can perform transactions, set the terms. So who is the receiver? What is the currency that you are going to send it? And that's it. You can even cancel it in case you would like to withdraw and so on. And you have Aquarium validators that are able to check this transaction around and perform it in your behalf. So you don't have to worry anymore regarding that, regarding having to get your ledger every month and so on. Aquarium validators are coming, are checking that your transaction needs to be executed, and they are doing it in exchange of a small reward. And this is very, very cool because, okay, I said I explained you the term about recurring payments, but think about this to interact with dApps in every month, every week, and so on. You unlock a lot of possibilities over there. And the second thing instead is regarding bubble fees that we said before. I want to provide ADA for users that would like to pay with my ADA transaction in exchange of a token. And this is very interesting because it's a way to DCA into a token without actually purchasing it, and maybe without having slippage or something like that, even getting better prices. Because let's say that I would like to provide my ADA in exchange of a token, but I would like to get a bit more of the token than compared to what I will get on the DEX, for instance. So you come with you are a whale of a token and you say, oh, perfect. I can use my token to do transaction on Cardano. And the premium that the user is getting, it's okay. It's at the end of the day, we are talking about a very small amounts. We are talking about fees. So it's usually compared to 0.3 ADA, 0.4 ADA. So very, very small amounts. And the cool thing is that considering that we are supporting Charlie Tree, Orcfax, this means that when I provide my ADA, I don't have to worry about the price fluctuating. The oracles will make me get the token price at that specific time. So I can just deposit ADA and forget about it. And users and dApps can now use that ADA to allow bubble fees without having to do multi-signature things, without having to wait for the other party to sign. Everything is handled directly on chain with smart contracts.
Very interesting. So, can you walk me through like an example just so I make sure I understand this correctly? Like, let's say I have 1,000 ADA. I go on Fluid. I can deposit it into some sort of smart contract. Then that ADA is used to cover Babel fees for different transactions happening, whether someone's borrowing, lending, stuff like that. So is this for someone that we had mentioned earlier in this? They're on Bitcoin, they come to Cardano, but they
Mm.
want to use their Bitcoin, they don't want to own any ADA. This would essentially be covering these different Babel fees, whether it's Bitcoin or let's say Snack or whatever the case is. And then whoever deposits ADA, they're essentially just getting like a small fee every transaction. Am I understanding that right or no?
You described it perfectly, and
Okay.
you are the one that picks the token that you would like. So it's not bubble fees with any token. You pick the tokens, and in this way, you are getting only what you really would like.
Interesting. So how do you see this playing out? Like so for example, like if I'm Snack, if I'm the founder of Snack or something, I have Snack
Yeah.
Fun, meme coins, stuff like that. It's all in terms of ADA. Like, yeah, I guess just like give me an example of how like you could see a project use this. Um,
Yeah.
where do you
So
sort of see this going? Because you would need a decent amount of people opting for a different token other than ADA for
correct.
gas.
Exactly. So there are two things, two opportunities for the user. One is what you said. I am a user. I would like to use another token to pay my transaction, and that's easy for the project because if they or anyone else deposited ADA for their token, we using our APIs, they can just build a transaction that use that token instead of ADA, and that's it actually. But the other opportunity there is, and this is actually very useful when you have stable coins, because imagine a DApp that is using is letting users deposit stable coins. They have stables, they don't have ADA, and they would like to perform transactions. So they now can pay transaction using stable coins, and it's very, very useful in your on your phone. When you use an app, you are just paying using dollars. So you are used to think about paying fees in stables. And the other thing is that you could even say, okay, I want to allow my users to pay lower transaction fees than what they have usually when they are using my token. And this helps a lot, for instance, for these batcher fees and all this stuff that usually is can be an issue for some users performing small transactions, and can help to actually reduce the pressure on that end.
Interesting. And would this sort of, and as far as an investor standpoint, like let's say I want to get yield on my ADA, would I just be able to go on Fluid and I would be able to see these different tokens like SNEC, for example, and I would be able to deposit ADA into like the SNEC Babel fees, and whenever SNEC was used instead of ADA, I would use that ADA,
Yeah.
or it would look like that pretty much?
Exactly, exactly. You can say, I want to deposit my ADA and get snack at a price that is, I don't know, 20% higher than the current market price. In that way, you are actually purchasing snack at a better price because you are getting more snack than what you would get on a DEX, let's say. So essentially, it works like a marketplace for fees.
Man, that's really interesting. Like, have you seen this on other chains, or is this something that has only really been possible with Cardano?
I have
Like, I don't think
see
I've seen this before.
I have seen it recently, but it's handled by in a different way on stacks, meaning that they have bubble fees native on their layer two. So you can choose to pay fees with stacks itself or with Bitcoin. These are just the two possible tokens.
Interesting. And when does it come out? Like, do you guys have a release date of when people can expect this?
So the we are currently just waiting for the audit to give us the green light, and they say that it should be finished by the 15th of April. So if all goes as planned, we will be able to launch Aquarium way before the end of the month.
Nice. Dude, I mean, it seems like, and we are heading towards the end of the hour here, so I appreciate everyone that's listening, and this has been a great talk. Like, it seems like you guys are doing a bunch of stuff at, sort of the same time here. Like, I'm curious from a team perspective, what has made you guys what's part of the deciding factor of what you focus on, right? Like why like I we talked about why you got into Bitcoin and like a little bit about why you're doing this, but what goes into the deciding factor of the focus of what you're developing, because there's only so much development resources, right? Like I'm curious
Yes.
why you guys like picked these different routes.
So at a certain point, we understood that it was not anymore about building just a dApp. You know, we could just build a app for lending and borrowing and forget the rest and stay like that, maybe update a bit more the smart contracts. However, what we really want is becoming a brand that is not just popular on Cardano, that is not just well known as a reputation and also as protocol itself on Cardano, We would like to be able to be a brand known as in the Web3 space. And
Mm.
when you think about it, Magic Eden, for instance, they got it. And how did they got it? They started to support not just one chain, more than one chain. And they are actually very advanced on the Bitcoin ecosystem side. They have been pushing a lot in that sense. But this means that if we want to achieve that goal, we have to understand how can we leverage what Cardano technology has in order to onboard all these chains. So we focus on that side, but we also need to understand how that chain works in order to make it connect in the best way. And that's why Fluid Tokens has launched on Bitcoin Layer 1, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good move too. I've always kind of, right now in crypto, it's so insane how there's even interoperability issues still. Like I
Yeah,
kind of think in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like a lot of these sort of friction points are going to be completely gone or completely unnoticeable from the user experience. And it's kind of insane the need to bridge this here and do this here and oh like this is on this chain and like this is different code on that chain and I think what you guys are doing is making like the most logical step of just adding in additional options for different chains to get involved. And I
yeah,
think Bitcoin is a huge opportunity too, in the sense that there aren't very many solutions out there right now. Like we
exactly.
said earlier, I mean, there might be 300 L2s that came out of nowhere that are hard to trust. Um, you can't really do too much on the layer one. So it's really I think a smart move from you guys too. And I think when people have that conversation of, oh, how do you actually get more users into Cardano? I think it's stuff like this. I think it's
Yeah,
making these integrations and tapping into those other ecosystems because right now on Cardano, I don't know like how many active users are in DeFi
yeah,
right now, but it's got to be less than
exactly.
10,000, right? So it's
Yeah,
like you really need to draw in new people, new liquidity, new reasons to actually use the chain.
exactly. I completely agree with you, and this is what we want. We want to make that smooth experience for the users, like forgetting even that they are using Cardano. They just want to use a very cool app with their wallet, and that's what we want to use to make the user feel.
Oh yeah. Well, dude, Raul, this has been one hell of a podcast episode. I appreciate you coming on and educating everyone more about the Bitcoin Cardano integrations and what you're doing at Fluid. Was there anything else you wanted to say before wrapping up today? Anything else people need to be aware of?
No, I think that just focus and check out our Twitters, our posts. We will be posting a bit more when the release date of Aquarium and the new landing will come closer. So feel free to check it out. And if you have questions, reach out on Discord.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening in as well. Nice talking.